Here's my Lenovo Legion Go 2. This one here is the Z2E. I have two videos I'm making out of this. One testing the Z2E versus the Z2, 780M versus 890M. But this video here, I'm actually going to be testing Windows here. This is just standard Windows 11 in June, early June. And I'm comparing this to SteamOS. I run this system normally with SteamOS, which I took off because I put back on Windows. And I'm going to show you guys just how much massive the performance difference is here. It's shocking. I did anticipate significantly different lows, like the 1% lows, 0.1% lows are just massively better on SteamOS, not even comparable, but I was very shocked at the performance. Very shocked at just the general performance. I normally use SteamOS because of, there's the convenience of using it. But let me show you here, it's not just the convenience, the performance is shockingly better on a SteamOS based handheld than Windows. And this here runs full native SteamOS. All I had to do is change one single thing to get the brightness slider working, and everything else was just native. So let me show you guys how much better this thing is here. Okay, we can see here at 25 watts, definitely below. Fair. Once again here, a few FPS lower. Seems like 25 was the biggest discrepancy, but yeah, pretty unplayable here at 15 on both, but still better on SteamOS. Okay, so here we're a couple frames lower. Definitely will be lower performance here than the SteamOS version. SteamOS tests, but that's part of it. But what you're going to see more than that is when we start moving around things like microstutter, but even just raw performance here, we can see it is lower, about 10%, which is considerable at these lower frames, right? Still about 10% lower. Still about 10% lower. A little bit closer here at these low watts. Okay, about 10% lower here. Frames are just essentially 10% lower right now. This interface is way laggier. Now you will notice considerable, you can see that, like that micro stutter. It's not even micro stutter, it's like macro stutter. Traversal stutter is very bad in Windows version. And you'll notice that in a lot of games. Part of it is just the operating system in general, efficiency and codes like that, but a lot of it is actually just DRM. DRM can be pretty bad on Windows and really impact the performance. You can see here our performance is actually quite a bit lower. Look at that massive drop there. We're about 10-ish% lower on average. Probably somewhere around there. Yeah, around 10% lower, but the biggest thing is hitching due to traversal stutter. Base frame rate is way lower, but yeah, it is a fair bit lower, and the micro stutter is worse. They both have micro stutter, but this one here has macro stutter. It's pretty bad. Huge drops, routinely huge drops. Now I consider this game to be playable on Windows, but it's not really that enjoyable, to be honest, on Windows hardware. It's so bad for hitching constantly. And I think it's just the DRM. The DRM is so aggressive in this game that it really does cause fairly considerable issues with performance, to the point of I don't really like playing this game on Windows machines, to be honest. Performance is a lot lower now, quite a bit lower at these lower watts. And I suspect part of that is that this thing's now trying to keep up with that DRM, that de novo DRM, and run the game at lower watts, and it just destroys performance, right? We're massively lower performance here on Windows than on SteamOS, to the point of it's not even enjoyable. And that's a major issue I've noticed. Look at how bad that is. It's hard to show on camera, but it is like potentially you'll catch it, but in person it is very bad to play this game on a Windows device in general. On a handheld like this, I mean, we're looking at 10 frames lower here, 10 frames. That's a huge, huge decrease in performance. And on top of that, the part you're not seeing, potentially on camera, but for me it's very obvious, is I wouldn't call it micro stutter. There is micro stutter, there's also like massive frame drops on top of that. I mean, great game. It's just the DRM kills it, and in Steam, it's way better. Yeah, we're looking at 10 frames lower potentially. Maybe more actually, around 10 frames lower. It's pretty bad. And the traversal stutter is pretty bad here. Frame time graph is much worse. In the city, it was very, very, very bad on a Windows experience. I mean, 10% already is pretty bad just for an operating system, but it's the lows that really are significantly worse here. Even that, like I picked up those things and the game just froze. It's just so bad on Windows handhelds. Yeah, pretty bad. Okay, so just sitting right here, the performance is hugely different. 10 frames lower, which is almost 20%. It's a lot. It's a lot. 48 versus 58, that's a huge difference. Yeah, it makes such a difference going with SteamOS. Ten frames lower, 10% or 20% or so. That's a gigantic difference. Yeah, so it's very, very, very noticeably different here in terms of performance. Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're looking at, you know, a few frames here or something like that. We're looking at very considerable differences in performance here. 10, even 20% lower performance. The frame time graph, if you look at the frame time graph as well, it's much worse. Like the frames are just, you know, the lows are significantly worse. The performance is significantly worse. You know, I did anticipate the performance to be worse, because that's kind of how it is. You know, I always expected 10%. I didn't actually anticipate 20%, but the main thing is, you know, the lows are always, I did anticipate the lows would be different, because that's kind of what I'm used to. I know that the lows are sort of just always worse on Windows versus SteamOS, especially due to DRM and that kind of stuff, and just operating system issues. But it's not just that, it's the performance. The raw performance is also much, much different than I thought. You know, I'd felt it. Like, you know, I'd played Steam games. I played on SteamOS and I played on Windows, and I was always like, okay, you know, the Windows one just feels way worse, and there's definitely lower, like significantly lower micro stutter, where I can say, you know, this feels way smoother on Steam than Windows because of the micro stutter. But it's not just that. I'm surprised at how much of a difference there is in terms of raw performance. Considerably different. It's now balanced FSR instead of quality. Still a huge difference. 10 to 20%, almost 15%, I'd say. Okay, let's play at 25 watts here. 10 frames difference, so approximately 20% lower performance here. Okay, so that's it right here. As we can see in this video, it's massively better to run SteamOS on these handhelds here. These are AMD. Right now, SteamOS has better compatibility on AMD, but they literally announced today that it's going to be also pushing for significantly better Intel. And Intel just has better chips right now. But if you have a Windows-based, AMD-based handheld, I strongly recommend that you install SteamOS. Some of them have it natively, but right now, all of the handhelds on the market that I have tested run SteamOS natively. There might be a couple tweaks you have to do. In this one, the Legion Go 2, all you have to do is change one thing to get the brightness slider to change. Everything else works perfectly. Right out of the box, touchpads, everything perfectly. It's just that brightness slider is one code. Everything else perfect. I've used it on other handhelds like that don't use a Z2 type stuff, you know, the 890M, 780M, whatever, the standard ones, and it also works amazing. I highly recommend running SteamOS on your devices when they're AMD for right now. You're going to get way better lows, and all of that comes down to DRM. It's just way better. Like Final Fantasy Rebirth it's considered generally unplayable on Windows products, even high-end stuff. Like I have a pretty high-end desktop, it's crap. Once you install SteamOS, it's smooth as silk. That's just the lows. I did not anticipate such a huge performance difference as well. I knew that the lows were going to be better because I'm just used to it. That's why I installed it. Part of it was convenience, sleep, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's fine. Let's install SteamOS to bring those lows up. It just feels better and better to play. What I didn't anticipate was that the actual average performance was going to be massively different, massively better. 10% is the kind of minimum. In many cases, it was 20%. So I'd call it about an average percentage boost of 15%, and the lows and micro stutter are not even comparable. You're essentially eliminating micro stutter almost altogether. Not quite, as long as your settings are fine, right? Then you're going to be limiting it almost altogether, and like macro stutter or traversal stutter is also almost completely removed, as long as your performance settings are okay. So there you go. You should be running SteamOS on your handhelds if they're running AMD right now. Just absolutely, it's a no-brainer. And soon enough, AMD, Intel is going to be getting support as well, and you should go for that. It's such a game changer. So that's that. That's the video. Hugely, hugely better on SteamOS. Trust me, not just the quality of life stuff, being able to sleep your machine properly. It's just so much better to run SteamOS on these handhelds over Windows OS. Windows OS is not designed for gaming stuff and definitely not designed for handhelds.